He doesn't come on. Every time he's on the news or in the newspaper, she has to send me. My mom said she was on she recorded it. Lets me know when he's in the paper.
Where's Jason?
Oh, Jason Eaton. He came from. Jason came last week.
Yeah.
That both of my ears are. Oh, no, I take that back. Mystique's coming up at 6. I almost did. Just on that. Life. 6 sessions. Go ahead.
We have to use this time.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Matt. Kelly's going to teach.
Knew he was going to do that. In all seriousness, do you want to start off with like the difference between the strike teams and the task forces and all that again, like we did last time? So I'm Kelly. I'm from West County. You don't hear me on the radio nearly as much as you hear Matt because I really don't do anything except sit in my office all day and watch TV. So Bob thought it'd be a good idea just to kind of start off. Basically, all Matt and I are going to do is go through just we'll kind of get into any questions you guys have about like when we do launch Task Force 3 and kind of the procedures that we go through when we go out of the area. Some of the things that I do as a TFL when we go out, just communicating back to you guys and stuff like that. But we did change the name. It used to be Strike Team 3. Some people have a hard time remembering that. They're getting better. But it kind of gets down the difference between a strike team and a task force. So a task force is able to it's multiple different resources that can do different tasks whenever they get somewhere. So that's a task force. And then your strike teams, so not to be confused, like when you dial up a pumper strike team or a brush truck, a brush strike team or whatever, it's all single resource, right? So we put together a brush strike team, it's all brush trucks. If we do the same thing with a pumper strike team, then it's all engines going somewhere to accomplish one task with one resource. Task force is a little different. So we actually kind of changed the name on it last year, I guess, to reflect that. So now it's St. Louis Task Force 3. So that was kind of just, Bob wanted to break that down and kind of clarify that. That's just a general start off. So Matt has a PowerPoint that covers kind of the USAR side of the house. The water PowerPoint's still the same, and we'll get into a little bit of the differences. I'll let Matt start talking about the USAR stuff, and then when he's done, we'll just kind of have a quick little discussion on the water stuff and kind of some of the differences you see there. Most of the time when we go out the door, it's more for USAR, so it's more, urban search and rescue type stuff. So we'll get them together to go down like we went to Delta, Missouri, we went downtown. I think we went somewhere else this spring too with the USAR side of the house. I said, yeah, well, city's downtown to me. I said that. Delta, Missouri, and I thought there was one other one. But anyway, we get that team together a lot more to go places versus the water team because most of the time the water, by the time they dial up Task Force 3 to go somewhere for a water event, it's Missouri. We're all familiar with flash flooding. It comes up, it goes down. By the time we get there, there's really nothing to do. So you just don't see that piece of it very much. But at the end of this, if there's questions you guys have for us as far as like we put the teams together, notifications, things like that, please by all means ask, and we'd be happy to answer them. I think getting this information out and actually communicating directly with you guys has been a really good thing. So with that, I'll hand it over to Matt and just keep my fingers crossed he doesn't say any curse words.
Thanks. Okay, I'm Matt Wilcox. I'm with the Maplewood Fire Department. Not here, as Kelly informed everybody. All right, so there's the org chart. So how it works is when we go out, that's the org chart. The organizational chart lays out who's in charge. That's the task force leader, safety officer. Typically, we have a rescue team manager, which kind of does search. We have a hazmat, comes with us, somebody from medical. Then we have the rescue squads that come with us. This is from the federal side. So a lot of this PowerPoint has the federal USAR system in here. We kind of scale it down for the St. Louis side of it. And we're just going to kind of, like Kelly said, give you a breakdown of what it looks like from our perspective. If you have any questions along the line, please let us know. This is a little different in the sense of it seems like every time we deploy and we go somewhere, it's not pre-planned in the CAD. So like a first alarm where you can put the address in and it pulls the trucks based on GPS and whatever works. This usually there's an email going back and forth. These are the trucks that are going, this is that, and how they're going to work from there. So these are some pictures. Okay, was anybody here? This is from Ladue and the chimney collapse on the excavator. Was anybody here? This was a while ago there. Okay, so that was a task force 3 response, but it started out as a regular response in Ladue. Then it grew to a full-on response from there. That sound, I think, in Joplin or somewhere, that's an out of region response. So the other one we went to was Jeffco this year. Went down to the tornado in Jeffco. So the team has crossed into Illinois. We went to the Amazon collapse. But basically the way it works is in order for us to go somewhere outside of region C or not, or St. Louis, region C. Correct. It has to go through Chief Silvernail from Kirkwood. He's the Region C coordinator. So he oversees not just USAR, but everything. So if we're going to move, the request comes from another region coordinator to him. They say, I need this. Then Chief Les Cruz and Chief Ernie Rhodes kind of oversee the admin side of it. They decide which team goes. So in the St. Louis metropolitan area, there's Strike Team 1, which is St. Charles. 2 is St. Louis City. 3, which is us. 4, which is over in Illinois. 5 is Jeffco and Franklin. So they decide, depending on where it is, where the call is, where the incident is, which team will go. And then they roster from there and send them out from there. This is just on the federal side. I'm going to kind of skip on the federal stuff. So the gist of what we're going to do is when we go somewhere is basically the main responsibility is search and rescue. And we're there for the people of the area we're going to. You can do anything from building collapse, confined space, trench rescue, wide area search. Kelly's going to get into water. So our overall goal is to get there, and then the mission has kind of changed that we're using SARCOP more, which I will explain that in further detail. You guys actually have a piece of SARCOP here at your dispatch center. And forgive me, what's the gentleman's name again? Connor is your GIS. He's your GIS guy. He is actually going to start coming out with us with our USAR trailer. He's going to work with Tom Bauer from Metro West, doing the GIS and the SARCOP with us. So we have specialized equipment. We do everything from cut metal, cut concrete, dig down into concrete, freeing victims from all kinds of different ways. It's not just, you can think about it, it's all on there. And a lot of that is on the heavy hauler, which is 2246 now. 2246.
USAR.
Yeah, USAR. It's a big tractor. It's a big tractor trailer that Monarch has. Okay, so that's it. Sorry, it changes like every week. So that's a big staple that goes. Metro West has the SARCOP trailer, which I think is USAR 33. And then they just kind of sprinkle in some vehicles from there. So the response package changes. Chief Digman is working on trying to streamline for a USAR deployment. These are the vehicles we're going to take. So the package is the same. So when you guys kick it out and they're going somewhere, you guys understand it's going to be the same vehicles. We can do medical assistance. So we take an ambulance with us. The ambulance is there for us and any people might come across or something, but they're strictly there for us. Usually we just take an ambulance. Sometimes SCAD will incorporate with us if we can get a hold of them and they're coming down with us. We do have a structure specialist. It's their fire marshal. What's his number? 3506 is the structures specialist for us, so he'll come down with us. So that's another one you might. And then we try and coordinate with where we're going. How it works for us, we get assigned to where we're going. So I'll use, Kelly and I went down to Cape Girardeau. Tom Bauer and I were down in somewhere south, somewhere just south of Jeffco. Cape got hit. They were overran and they needed help. The call came in. Kelly had the team. Tom and I went down there. So when we go down there, we do not go down there to take over everything. We're there to work for whoever is in charge and whatever they need. So the footprint for us is we have to find a spot big enough for the parking lot to put all that. It's a convoy of vehicles. So for that one, we just parked in the middle of the street and took over the street. Then we had that set up. Then we have to go meet with the locals. So that could be the coroner, the sheriff, the mayor, whoever. At that point, it was the sheriff. You introduce yourself, say who you're with, what do you need help with? And at that time, they just needed help doing secondary searches on buildings, which is where SARCOP came in. So Kelly and the team came down. We had a spot for them to park. We had our rules of engagement, which tells us what we can and can't do. And then we went to work. By the time they got down there, it was 20, 30 minutes from parking to getting to work, which is pretty good. Versus we went down to St. Louis City, hour and a half. Yeah, there was a long delay in that one from getting anything from there. We talked about that as far as what we were doing in there. Structural hazards, we talked about that, structures and so forth. So let's talk about SARCOP. So what SARCOP is it's essentially on your phone. So on my phone, I have the app on my phone. It's just like GPS, right? So as soon as I log in, I have a QR card on there. I put a login and then identifies me or my squad. So it will literally lay a breadcrumb trail wherever I walk. They'll see it on the map. As I get to a building, a hazard, a person, whatever, I can drop an icon, and that icon or that color goes on a chart, and those all mean something. So if we're going through a neighborhood, we can put things in. How's the house impacted? Completely destroyed, not completely destroyed, so forth from there. You can also put icons in for blocked roads, trees down, people sheltering in place, whatever else. Where this comes into play for you guys. Eventually, this is way above me, and Connor's gonna have to figure out how to do this. Eventually, what's gonna happen is that SARCOP data, you're gonna be able to incorporate that SARCOP data. So let's take the city of Clayton or the city of St. Louis. Tornado went through on a Friday. They had data Friday night. So that data can be uploaded into the CAD, and then it will tell you what routes are blocked by trees, where the damage is, the structures and so forth. So you guys have an idea for routing for them getting around, areas that are impacted for structural damage. If there was a fire there, you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to do all kinds of different things with it, by more than I can even think of. But we take that data, we use it, but then also you're going to be able to use it. But then all that data at the end goes to the city of St. Louis so they can use it for federal reimbursement and the rebuild process.
Common operating platform. That's used, it's better. So it's used from coast to coast, basically. There's a couple of states that haven't adopted it yet, but so if I pick it up, if I went to California, it would be a device and said, here, use this and go out and do that. It will be exactly the same. I'll be able to log in. I'll understand what I'm looking for, looking at on the phone. So that's why it's called right now.
So right now it's just it's the smartphone app.
Yeah, and we have what we call signups that kind of look like a cell phone, but they're actually just standalone devices that actually have they're just made like phones. They just have the apps. So that's really all it is. And then you can sign in. You can do training with it. So there's two different sides to it. There's a real world. It says real world in big letters because once you tap in there, if you log in under real world and start recording stuff, some of this stuff will actually go straight to like the main office in Washington, D.C. So if you put down that if you're out training and you're actually accidentally in the real world side of it, if you start putting fatalities and stuff in there,
That's going straight to the line. Yes, yeah, exactly. Because now they will catch it quick and they'll be like, wait a minute, what's going on? And, then you get, in trouble for using the railroad sign at the train. So, but, I mean, the data goes, it's well beyond, they're using it to city of St. Louis. It just doesn't stay there. Like there's people looking at it on a much higher level in real time.
So another component of that, so down in your dispatch room, you got the wall of screens, like different monitors. I don't know what you guys call it, but you know what I'm talking about over there? Okay, so if there's a storm coming in, okay, SARCOP is so accurate. If you were to pull this up and there's a tornado threat, okay, you log in, which Kyle will have, Kyle, correct? Connor, it's close. That's pretty good for me. He will have a login that essentially, if you decide, you could put it on the board. So you can watch the storm rolling in. It will put tornado tracks of the storm rolling in. Before it's public, there's a tornado. It will put the track down, and the track is within 2 or 3 blocks. Accurate, but it will give you the projection of how many structures are involved in there and the population. And it's pretty, I'd say it's like 95% accurate.
It tends to overestimate. It didn't down there. I think it was actually at some points throughout the city, it was EF through strength, right? So it actually didn't. It was fairly spot on. Sometimes it'll overestimate a little, but on the strength side, but it'll actually say you have to, he just said this many structures, this population.
So where that's important for you guys, so if it's coming into the weather coming in, so if it's coming from the west and you see it coming in, so the first round we had in the spring, it hit 44 in Grace Summit, I think was the first one, and then it jumped. Well, you could see that. Then it actually jumped into Metro's district out there by 5s, went over T to 100, and then I don't know what it did from there. But what you can see is what it's impacted, and then you can kind of see how accurate it is by the call volume. So you can kind of see if that's, I don't know how you do it down there. If somebody's got the south side, the south channel, that's where it is, and they start getting hit. Well, there's been a tornado that's probably gone through there, and the call volume's going through there. So you can give a heads up to it. As far as for us, we look at it also to see where we're going to deploy and so forth. So it's a really good tool. Kyle. Okay, so that guy, the GIS guy will be able to start figuring out that data and use it to benefit you guys downstairs. There's lots of tools that we haven't even thought of that you're going to be able to use it for downstairs.
Drop that train. You guys can have access to that side of it, and you can see that on a screen downstairs, because we'll start getting calls about the same time. It's normally 3 to 5 minutes after a storm passes through an area that track's laid down on there. Like it automatically knows from something else. But
And it's clear. You'll see a red line going right through.
Happens to lift up, it'll stop tracking on that.
Well, so the last one, I think you guys were in safety officer class. When there was this tornado that went through Monarch. It was an EF0. And I think Chief Cruz drove through and tried to look, but it said there was a track on there and they couldn't find anything. So it errs on the side of caution, but it's pretty accurate as far as it working out. So that's a tool that we use that you guys will be able to see. The other thing is if there's an incident in St. Louis County, or part of because you guys dispatch Merrimack too. So over in that area, once you have access to that, if we're working in St. Louis, so like when it went up north, you'll see our data as it's coming up. So you'll kind of get real-time data as far as like roads blocked, trees down, houses damaged, which can help you with dispatching because you're going to see all the units where they're tied up. You can see they're on a call or whatever, but typically when a storm like that has happened is it's been from call to call to call to call, and you're just grabbing apparatus. They might not be able to get there, and you'll kind of see what's blocked and what's not. It's all what's on the end users putting in though. That's the only difference. You'll see the track, but then you're not gonna see any damage until we come through and put damage on it. So there'll be a little delay on that. So as far as like going out the door, okay, for us, the way it works for us is we roster, and we typically roster, we very rarely have a no notice event. We roster, then that roster usually goes to Bob, and then basically that's the team on standby. And they have unit assignments from there. Then it's my understanding if we're activated, the G2 is used. Is that correct? And it sends out an alert to everybody, including us little children. We get an alert too in our little bubble. And then everybody and their brother will come on the radio and start going either on the radio or on the MDT and start going responding. That doesn't mean we're taking all those vehicles. An example Kelly brought up was Blackjack takes their little pickup truck, and forgive me, I don't know what the number is. It's 3719 or something. So let's use Blackjack's pickup truck, 3719, might go on the radio or on the MDT en route to West County House 2, because that's typically where we meet. Then what will happen is they'll get there. We check everybody in. We will probably end up leaving over half of those vehicles there at West County, load everybody into vehicles, and then go. And then somebody, whoever the TFL is, will let you guys know we're leaving, we've arrived. One thing that was brought up was kind of give status updates as far as what's going on, just so if the chiefs call, they understand what's going on, which is a good point. We can try and do that a little bit more as far as what we're doing. And then we let you know when we come back, and then they go to West County and we leave from there. So that's kind of like our perspective of it. Is there any questions about the USAR side or dispatching it or anything else that you can think of? We get to hear Kelly talk. Okay, great.
So the water side of the house is honestly, it's pretty much the same. We use the same organizational chart that you saw for the USAR side. So they pretty much mirror each other than equipment that may be going, right? So if we're going on a USAR event or a tornado strike, we're probably not taking any boats. If we get a water deployment dialed up to go somewhere, we will probably take at least 3 boats with us to do water stuff once we get there. So the difference is most of the responses out of St. Louis County, again, are USAR responses. You won't see, you guys probably, the one thing you really won't see is, you may know once you see the equipment list, if you start seeing a lot of boats on that list, obviously you're kind of looking and go, it's a water deployment. For here, it doesn't really matter. All you guys know is there's people rostered. That way, if one of us calls as a TFL and says, hey, we just got activated, I need you to dispatch everybody, you hit the button. Anybody that's on the roster for St. Louis County Task Force 3, please report to West County Station 2. Most of the time, that is our location. We have left out of Fenton Station, whatever Fenton Station down there off of like further south on 141. I can't think of which one that is. That one's bigger one with the huge front drive. Yeah. So we have used that location before. And then obviously if we were going west or north or whatever, we may use like Monarch's Engine House. We just look for departments that have a decent staging area that we can park equipment and then leave a few cars behind. So the biggest thing for you guys is, like Matt said, you're going to get all kinds of different equipment that goes responding at that point. So we were informed. I was informed. I didn't really know this happened, that people will start calling and say, hey, we're available. We're available. Your standard answer to them is, if you haven't been told you're rostered, you're not on the roster. So we normally take pretty much everybody that is qualified to be on the task force. Pretty much goes every time now. Not too many people get left behind. So if they're calling in and saying that, they probably either A, don't understand how the team works, which also means B, they probably don't have anybody that's qualified to be on it, because we do have a kind of a minimum set of qualifications. So if they're saying that, that's a good one. That's a good one. Have Case 2 give me a call. And I think moving forward and make sure I'll talk to Chief Digman about this, like whoever that TFL is, we can include that when we email Bob. So if it's myself, Matt, Corey Island does it, Chief Digman does it a lot. We'll include their phone number on that list. So hopefully Bob can filter that down to you guys. So that could be your standard answer. I don't really know. It's Chief Grassmuck is the TFL tonight. Here's his number. Call him. That's your easy out. That way you're not making anybody angry or anything like that. You can call me and I'll make them angry. I don't have a problem with that. So, and then to dovetail onto that, if anybody ever calls, like we are activated and we're meeting at West County Station 2. If anybody ever calls and says, you know, how are we supposed to respond? It's always urgent. Like if we're activated, our goal is to try and get the team, whether it's USAR water based, get those teams together and out the door heading to whatever our location is within 60 minutes. We've gotten better. We seldom hit the 60-minute mark. We're in about the 70-minute mark. So we're getting close, which is better than no, just out the door. So get everybody there, get them checked in, and then leave whatever our staging location is. We want to try and be leaving that staging location to head to wherever we're going within an hour. So it's hard. It's hard. I don't preach to the choir. It's hard when you're dealing with so many different fire departments and so many different methods of thought. And I still have trucks that, yeah. Well, and it's funny, and it mostly comes from the north end crews that they won't have their gear. Well, I'm at 3s today, but my gear's at station 1. Well, you knew you were on the roster. So now you got to go to 1s, pick your stuff up and then come down. Or we'll have trucks show up that, you know, I only got a half a tank of fuel. Cool. We're driving down to Cape Girardeau. Like I need you to have a full tank of fuel. So little things like that. And we're ironing those things out. Just those are minor bumps in the road. Things have gotten a lot better over the last 10 years with all this. So, but yeah, if they ever call and say, you know, 3719 is responding, is this supposed to be on the quiet, or it's always urgent to get to those staging locations. The faster we can get them there, the faster we can get turned around and get out the door. So I think from your perspective though, like I said, once you guys tap the button, they should know. And I think it's important for us to maybe start whoever's quarterback in the team for that event probably should have their number on there. So you guys can just pass that on to whoever may call. Kevin Stewart's probably a good one. Chief Stewart, he might call and ask. So, and that's fine. Like I said, I'm not afraid to make anybody angry. So, like I said, water responses are pretty much the same. We just don't go out that often as a water team. We will roster for both events. And it would be mainly if St. Charles County, so we had an issue pop up when Central Core got hit really bad. The very first time they got hit really bad, St. Charles County got hit really bad. So moving forward, that would be like something I think we need to look at, because trying to use the task force for the county that it's actually located in doesn't work too well. We learned that whenever we had the tornado in Clayton. Because as the storm passed through, guess what happened? Clayton wasn't the only area impacted. So all these departments that we had on this roster are now running calls. North County managed to escape that for the most part, but it turned into kind of okay, we're going to leave these guys behind because their trucks are out on calls. We have enough people here, so we're just going to move forward. So we're still learning as we go through these things. I think that's really probably one of the first in-county events that we've had a roster put together, where they tried to, Silvernail thought it would be okay to send them down, and I don't think it would have been. It should have maybe been Team 5. Somebody, bring up the Southern, Jefferson Franklin, and they didn't get hit too bad. So again, we're still kind of learning, but we managed through it. So, but for you guys, like I said, it's basically just we will always make sure we get those rosters and get that information to Bob's pretty much who I send everything to. So get it to him, and then he'll at least let whoever's on the floor down there, let them know, hey, this is what's going on. I don't know what your process is for that, but and then that way all you have to do is tap the button and get them dispatched, right? So that's just a simple phone call from one of us. to probably, and it could be later. I mean, by the time we got activated to go to Cape Girardeau this year, it was like 8 o'clock at night. So I'm probably not going to bother Bob with that. I'm probably just calling straight. I'm calling here, and saying, hey, we got activated, so I need the team sent to Station 2. So any questions for Matthew or myself regarding how these things go down, rostering? The other thing, and that was the thing that came up too, I'll add that in real quick. I know when we went down to Cape Girardeau, we actually went to a place called Delta, Missouri. If you've never been there, I'm not shocked. It's not very big. It's a little bit west, about 10 miles west of Cape Girardeau. So obviously we don't have radio communications down there with you guys, right? So the one thing I did try and do was at least make phone calls back up here to say, hey, we've arrived, so that you can, because you're going to pull a call for it, right? So that you guys can at least add those notes in there. That way, because I think the hardest part for us is we have so many different departments in St. Louis County that by the time we put a team together, we have a minimum of probably 7 fire chiefs that we have to answer to. Chiefs that are like, well, I shut a station down. I want to know what the guys are doing down there. Are they actually doing stuff? Are they sitting around? So I think those status updates are something that collectively across the people that do run the task force leader for the teams, we'll have a chat about that and try and get better about not just saying, hey, we made it, just so that if a fire chief calls and says, well, did my truck make it down there? Yeah. But an hour in, maybe every 60 minutes, it's a quick phone call. Say, hey, this is what we're doing. Got the teams working out in the field. You can put that in the notes for us, because I have to write, whoever TFLs has to write a report when they get back. So having those timestamps is nice. And then it also, if one of those chiefs happens to call here, at least you're getting something to give them, to keep them happy. So, and I really appreciate that, because it really takes a lot. It is a huge commitment. West County shuts a station down, Floriston's shutting a station down. Maplewood's taking most of the time half their trucks. They have 2, so one of their trucks is coming. So it's putting the burden of the city on just the pumper. But all these departments have some skin in the game, right? So being accountable to those fire chiefs is it's turning into more of a bigger deal than probably we gave it credit for. And I think they appreciate the information, and then that follow-up email the next day to just let them know, hey, this is everything we did. Thank you for your participation. But if we could start letting them know, hey, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you happen to wake up and look to see that, 4024 is still down there, feel free to call dispatch and see what's going on, because we're going to start updating them a little bit more frequently. So any questions?
You need to wrap up.
Thanks. One other thing though, is Bob is in training emails. I don't know if you're allowed to leave the dungeon and go see the world when you're working, but if you want to come out when we have training, just have Bob get a hold of us. We are doing Swiftwater training at Six Flags in September. Have you guys just you whatever you want to do, Bob. You could, I'll be honest, however long they want. You want to do it 2-hour blocks? And you can cycle them through. Just let MRI know, just so we have somebody there, and then we'll have somebody walk them around. I don't care. That's fine. Monday through Friday.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, normally it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
The 8th to the 13th.
12. Finally. Did record it. You told me I was right. I'm perfect. Yeah, for that one. Just tell them they're here for the fire department training. But yeah, let us know and they can come out and we'll show them everything. And that goes for all trainings. You guys want to see what's going on. You learn how to drown. So that's a good question. At West County House too, we have some props. So we have a wall that we tried to rack, and Kelly and I are so good, it's actually perfectly level. So we need to fix that.
But we do that to practice if the building's wrecked, put shoring on it. Down below, we have concrete slabs. We pour some, we have some from Highway 44 that we actually have the crews cut. We'll drop a slab on a dummy to cutting torches with metal that's over somebody, do simulated, we go to West County Mall or Chesterfield Mall a year ago. So every couple of years, we try and get all 5 teams together. So Chesterfield Mall, before they tore it down, they gave us Macy's, the Macy's building. And so we did a simulated building collapse in there. So you just kind of imagine something stupid.
The files of concrete already like knocked over.
So you could, we have done some, we put concrete, we built some things in Connex boxes. We buried some cars before, but that was a simulated earthquake. So they had to get from the parking lot to the roof. Like we pretended the building was buried down. So they had to go from the roof and tunnel all the way down to get the victim. So ropes, jackhammers, whatever else they needed to cut through everything, package the patient and actually medically treat them. And then they had to come back up and get them off the roof. And then they shored the building. A couple years ago, we did a simulated thing in U City. They were demoing some townhomes. So we did some stuff there for the simulated building collapse. And then Fred Weber Quarry, they built a chief from Maryland Heights built a 2-3 story like debris pile with tunnels and cars in it. Whatever you can think of, we try and build it. So
Interesting.
yeah, come on up.
Not only task force, strike teams that are like that, EMS strike team, then there was a USAR task force. They were kind of all working together to kind of not, so they were kind of a conglomerate of different. So we had volunteered to talk about what their role is. You also hear about like Missouri Task Force 1, right? Which is kind of one step up. It's the federal, that's a federal one. It's the federal, USAR Task Force 3. So if you remember the mutual aid documents that I put together, kind of breaks down the different categories of that. This is kind of like the second from the highest tier comes to the task force. We dispatched that through the FSA, from that policy as well. We pushed out, we dispatched task force 3, St. Charles dispatches theirs. Each of the other areas have their own process of how they dispatch them. But we're only handle the task force 3 version. Hopefully this gives you guys a better understanding of that process. Kind of over. Not a single question. Come on, Eric, you know you have one. You're the longest tenured.
I'm the what?
Longest tenured dispatcher. And you're the supervisor, you don't count on the 3 that is it.
Oh, I was gonna say Andy's better for me.
Yes, and I'm correct in thinking, the Missouri Task Force 1, when you bump it up federal, Missouri Task Force 1 is just made up of task forces throughout all of the regions of the state.
We have people, we have a truck driver. One guy works for the city of Columbia, as like a maintenance guy. So then we have doctors, paramedics, people that just strictly work for paramedics, but they come from all over the state. So when we get, every month we have a roster with them, and it looks just like what you saw out there. And then if we get activated, we all have to get to Columbia within 3 hours, checked in. They give an hour anyway. It used to be we had to get there in 4 hours. I think they realized if they told us 3, we get there faster. So we have to be out there within 3 hours, go through check-in. Typically, we're on the road wherever, about 5 hours ish, to get wherever we need to go. So, but there's everybody. We have engineers. There's always structure specialists, so they're like legitimate engineers. That's what they do in their profession. Heavy equipment operators, we carry
like 2, I think, heavy equipment operators on a type 1 team. There's a lot of firefighters that belong to their respective, whether it's for, we have a lot of firefighters from KC, Springfield, in the St. Louis area. And a lot of them are involved in their task force or their task forces at home. So a pretty good understanding of everything. It's a pretty much a mixed bag of people.
We just went to Texas recently. Was that a USAR and a water package?
It wasn't initially, they pretty much,
It's always takes
they
there.
also send them.
It does if it's done. But yeah, it's
We're primarily a hurricane team. Like we do a lot of hurricane deployments. So pretty much anything from Texas over to about Mississippi is kind of our primary response area on the Gulf Coast. So anything that is coming in there, typically they'll put together a type 3 team, which is about 45 people. Type 1 is about 90-ish people. But they'll always, if something's coming into the Gulf and it's going to get anywhere from Texas to about Mississippi, 99.9% of the time, there's a type 3 team going from Missouri to go down there and stage. And just wait and see if anything happens. Texas, we do things like that too. I mean, major floods. We've been out to Colorado for major flooding out to Colorado that lost out bridges and roads and streaming people up in the mountains. Texas was a little different because it started off as a type 3 and then they upgraded it to a type 1. So they sent 35 to 40 of us down, flew us down about midpoint of that. So they upgraded the team to a type 1. That kind of fun on them. We went on the upgraded team. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of firefighters on there, but there's also one of the gals that does better. She's a nuclear engineer or something. She works in the city clerk's office. Missouri.
There's that one, and then there's nuclear, the hazmat. But we have to go to plant. She's a nuclear engineer or something.
Yeah.
She does hazmat.
Yeah.
It's been way smarter than me. That's not saying much, but yeah. Now, Missouri can come here, and they have. So in the last, what year was the flood?
That was that flood, the major flood in Valley Park, where they were about time levy was probably close to 10 years ago now, somewhere between 8 and 10.
Yeah, so they have come here. It's a state asset first. So when we went to Cape, was it the following day or like a couple of days later?
They rostered.
Yeah, and they went back down to that general area. So there is a potential it could come here.
They came here for the St. Louis.
St. Louis tornado. So we are a state asset first, working for the governor and the state emergency management agency, and then you're a federal entity from that. So when you're under state rules, you do whatever the state wants. When you go federal, you're under the federal guidelines. Then that's a whole bunch of rules.
And they do a lot more staging stuff too, where like we went down to Cape for the tornado that night and they were expecting upwards of like 12 to 15 inches of rain the next day. And the guy that was down there was kind of running the region. Which is funny, he asked, because he's on the task force with us on Missouri Task Force 1. He asked if we could come back down with the water resources and stage just to see if they had. It's like, we don't do that. Like, we are primarily as a county task force, a 911 resource for immediate help. So the Amazon building collapsed. You know, hey, we need help over here. That's basically a 911 call for help. Yes, we'll put a team together and we'll get over there. We typically don't do standby for what ifs because we're pulling people out of stations. We're shutting stations down to do this. So most fire chiefs, mine included, are cool with that. They're fine sending the help wherever it's needed in the state or over in Illinois to do that. But they're not cool with just sending, hey, we're going to send these guys down there and have stage for 24 hours just to see if anything happens. That doesn't fly with most of the fire chiefs up here in the county. So, but I don't plan on it. I mean, but Missouri Task Force 1 will do. That's why they went down right behind us down in southern Missouri for that potential for flooding. So they like to try and get. It truly is a little different than what you see on the news. FEMA is actually They're trying to currently put a little bit more ownership back on the states to be more involved, to be more proactive, like Texas, you know, you're getting ready to get a bunch of rain from this post-tropical system that came in off the Pacific. That's coming up, you know, they knew they were gonna get a ton of rain. They actually used some of their state resources before they start calling in federal resources, but he was pretty good about pre-staging resources as well. We learned on that one, though, that one occurred on the weekend, and the new director, you know, wasn't in the office, it didn't have any intentions on, I guess, signing off on it, because it has to be signed off by her.
Yeah.
For the federal resources to go there, so.
This Chief Silverdale have to call to get federal resources.
He would go through, he would go through SEMA.
They would all say the governor, so it has to work, so we need to get a federal declaration. Basically, it all starts local, so in here, city of Wildwood, St. Louis County, then goes to the state. Then the state, SEMA goes to the governor has to declare the disaster to the president. And then the president and FEMA agree or disagree, then that's when the purse strings open, then resources can come. So you can't just snap your fingers. Now, as far as like the state, you can, I believe Jimmy could call down to the mutual aid coordinator and request Missouri Task Force One directly. He cannot. He can.
Yeah, because it's a state.
Yeah, it's a state resource, so you can do that within state. But as far
But if
as
you wanted to get an Indiana task force
Yes.
in here, you would have to go through those processes. And it's just, because it's expensive. I mean, Missouri Task Force One was gone for like 16 days. Down in Texas, where it was good footing. And I mean, that's probably, I would say, somewhere between $3 and $4 million deployment, money that comes out that the federal government is paying to send that team. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a cheap venture. I mean, you know, I mean, it's part of it too, because you're taking, I mean, once we move to a type 1, you have 2 doctors that are on that team that are traveling with the team now. Doctors get paid about $100
I
an
don't
hour.
know if you have doctors travel with you.
Yeah, so I mean, they're $100 an hour until they're on overtime, then they're $150 an hour. So, I mean, it's just, you know, it's just the cost of moving equipment and food, lodging, fuel.
And then like if the guys that are then out of the stations, does it cover like overtime to fill their shifts and things like that?
Used to. It doesn't really.
Now the department just eats that cost.
A lot of departments do it different. Like my West County, we can, because we have 5 people, I think, on the federal team. Like we can elect to use our vacation time. We can elect to go unpaid if we want to. Or you can use trip time or something. I can't say how we're going to. So I'm either,
So
I mean,
you're
they're using
not, you're
vacation.
not excused from work because you've been.
Some departments will.
Oh.
But
that's a whole other
yeah.
tricky conversation.
Well, yeah, and it gets into the, we don't do it because if you're supposed to be here working, but I let you go on this federal employment. And I'm not making you use the benefit time, that's the way our department looks at it, is you're kind of double dipping that. You're getting paid by Central County and you're getting paid by the federal government.
Oh,
So you're getting two sources of income here.
yeah.
Some departments don't care about.
I guess I never even thought about that. I didn't realize that federal government paid.
Yeah, yes, Metro West, they can elect to go unpaid or they can actually reimburse the district for their time, like their dollar amount, what it would cost.
So each department does whatever.
Yeah, that was completely different across.
I'll just double dip.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having everyone. Have a good night at work.